The Last of Us American Dreams comic book series covers what's chronologically the earliest part of Ellie's story. A time before discovering she's the cure, a time before meeting Joel, and a time before she loses it all. This is the time when the orphaned Ellie kept getting shifted from quarantine zone to quarantine zone. Being an orphan in the post-apocalypse isn't exactly an uncommon phenomena, and through Ellie, we see what that experience is like. The book opens with Ellie being shipped to a new boarding school. Something must have gone wrong at the previous one. When she arrives, she asks one of the guards who knows her and seems to care a bit about her to stay with her. But he refuses, saying he has his own family to take care of. And Ellie blows him off. This interaction sets the tone for the rest of the story. We're provided with the first piece of exposition we need about Ellie. Ellie is a nobody. An orphan who is unloved and unwanted. And this seems to affect her a certain way. Ellie immediately gets into a fight in her new home, gets caught, and it's straight into the principal's office. This fairly intimidating man proceeds to read a list of Ellie's past misdemeanors, which include fighting, theft, running away, fighting again, disobeying orders, and fighting. They're enough to shock him as well. So there's something off about Ellie, even amongst her peers, more brash, more combative. And there's no one event in her life you can point to for that. Probably just a constant rage at what her life is. But there's also something more. In this boarding school, we see that there are kids who formed groups and hierarchies amongst themselves. Some have hopes and dreams like climbing the ranks and joining Fedra, the government agency that keeps them here. 19 years ago, when the cordyceps infection broke out, the military responded quickly and imposed martial law. They then set up quarantine zones in different cities, where they offered jobs to the residents, established these boarding schools for the orphans, and assigned patrols to keep the infected back. So one would expect that there would be many willing to join this faction once they're able to do so. However, many are instead looking to join the Fireflies. The Fireflies are this hip, cool terrorist group that opposes the military. Because while the military's philosophy is to contain the infection, the Fireflies aim to wholly cure the infection. And as ideal or foolish as that may seem to Fedra, that's a cause the many would rather die for. You see, in their attempts to contain the infection, the Fedra military enforced a no-tolerance policy, killing those even just suspected of infection.
Alright, she's down.
Worse yet, any areas with too many infected to control were entirely obliterated with bombs, destroying all the life inside there. By staying in the quarantine zones, you'll probably get to live, but there's not much life in here. Your schedule, your future is all assigned to you, with little choice in your hands. And also, they're just assholes most of the time. So there's this grand political conflict taking place in the Boston quarantine zone, and the principal goes off on a big rant about it. But when he finally asks Ellie what she thinks of the Fireflies, Ellie responds, I don't think about the Fireflies at all. This line is brushed off as the principal continues his self-righteous speech, but it is a line deeply telling of Ellie. Unlike the other kids, Ellie has no aspirations, no dreams, and no purpose. just forced to go through the motions. Perhaps you've noticed by now, but in each and every panel, Ellie's framed incredibly small relative to the places and people around her, as to visually portray her weakness and lack of agency. Ellie is helpless against the flow of the world. And that leads us to the last bit of characterization of Ellie. The fact that this is supposed to be a post-apocalyptic zombie world is still in effect. To know that just outside the walls are inhuman monsters or inhuman people trying to mow each other down terrifies Ellie. And we get several panels of that. The terror of the outside world settling in on Ellie before she turns away from it in fear. So this is all that is established about Ellie in the early pages of this series. Basically, she's a no-name. Literally. If this was your first experience with anything The Last of Us, you wouldn't even know who this character is. 16 pages in and Ellie's name hasn't even been called yet. But this story is about a big shakeup in Ellie's little world. A shakeup brought about by the introduction of Riley. The earlier fight that Ellie got in trouble for was because some kids tried to take her Walkman away. We'll see this more and more, but Ellie assigns romantic attachments to certain items. They're like collecting parts of her identity. So when someone tries to mess with that, Ellie fights like her life depends on it. But of course, weak little Ellie was not gonna be able to take on all those bullies herself. So, Riley steps in and saves her. However, when Riley tries to make friends, Ellie blows her away because she'd rather not get attached to someone again. But later at night, something about Riley sticks with Ellie. A feeling that she's different and cool and wild. And sure enough, she catches Riley sneaking out after curfew and blackmails her to let her join. Though, to her surprise, Riley accepts, calling Ellie by name. But Ellie never mentioned her name. For the first time in the story, someone knows Ellie's name. For the first time in the story, someone's actually taken an interest in Ellie. After Ellie had rejected Riley, Riley had gone on and swiped Ellie's Walkman for herself. But what seemed to be cruel teasing from Riley was actually her trying to get Ellie's attention. Turns out, something about Ellie had stuck with Riley as well. American Dreams is all centered around this one crazy night Ellie had. Riley ushers Ellie towards this big adventure. And for the first time in the story, Ellie cracks a smile. This night is gonna be a night of firsts, if that's not clear enough already. First time going outside, first time at a mall, first time seeing an arcade, and first time riding a horse. Ellie's eyes are open to a world of wonder. Riley acts as Ellie's guide in this new world, leading her around the mall, showing her which games are the best, and negotiating on her behalf. Riley convinces the soldier, Winston, to give Ellie a horse riding lesson. Ellie accepts Riley as her mentor figure. Riley gets that respect from her because she's earned it. Riley keeps getting the better of Ellie. First, she beat up those boys in her place. Then she swiped her Walkman without her realizing. And just now, on the way to the mall, she proved herself to be much faster and more agile than Ellie. Ellie could barely keep up with her. Riley's older and more experienced than Ellie, so Ellie feels like she can learn a lot from her. That being said, Riley is wild and a lot more dangerous. As it turns out, while Ellie was out there preoccupied with all the fun, Riley used her to distract Winston and swipe his radio. You see, unlike Ellie, Riley has big dreams. Earlier, she asked Ellie if she ever wondered about the future. Ellie's dumb, so she thought, the far future? With spaceships and stuff? But Riley's not here for little games. She dreams of joining the Fireflies. She's here to find them. Once again, Ellie lacks purpose compared to her peers. So, spurred on by a desire for change, Ellie and Riley intervene in a Fedra Firefly shootout.
Over there!
Shit!
Chaos ensues, and they escape into an alley. However, it's here that their night takes a dangerous turn. The comic so far has done a fantastic job of subconsciously conveying the sense of utter weakness our protagonist feels. The feeling of being this weak little creature in a place so oppressive and so completely indifferent towards you. But along with that, it's been building up this fear of what lies outside that place. A world not just indifferent, but cruel, hateful. But so far, it's always kept a thin shield between us and those horrors. Thin enough for us to turn away, but also thin enough for that fear to stay with us. Constantly wondering, what if at some point we find it's not there anymore. What follows is a desperate struggle to survive, messy, uncoordinated, raw. For the first time we see Riley not as the cool sleuth she pretends to be, but as this young girl who's bit off more than she can chew. Ellie escapes from the side, leaving Riley alone with the runner. But Ellie comes back and whacks the runner with a stick. The runner lunges at Ellie before Riley takes advantage and kills her. After the fight, Riley goes back to playing it cool, trying to shake off the scare of that potential bite. But Ellie grabs her in fear and relief, allowing her to drop her guard, and the two share in this moment together. However, this night has one more adventure left for them, because not long after, they're knocked down and captured by the Fireflies. The final issue of this comic opens on a bound Ellie listening in on the Fireflies fighting amongst themselves. As she slowly peeks in, she sees the leader of the Fireflies, Marlene, although she seems to be in a pretty grim state. To their shock, Marlene unties Ellie and Riley, while her companions continue to complain about a bunch of different problems. Suddenly, they're interrupted by a group of smugglers who demand a toll from them. A man is killed, another shootout breaks out, and the Fireflies eventually emerge victorious. Nothing makes sense. From the moment Riley swiped that radio, it has been absolute random mayhem. Chaos, and purposefully so. The key word repeated throughout this comic is control. Control over their situation, control over their life. The apocalypse brought with it chaos. And inside Fedra's quarantine zones, the only areas of safety was dogmatic control. Either way you go, the people in this world are suffering from a lack of agency. And whereas the Fireflies purported to be that balance, they too are suffering like the rest. Just another grimy faction vying for control. But Riley doesn't see that. As Riley comes in making her pitch to Marlene, she regurgitates all of their propaganda back to her. And Marlene, tired and exhausted, moves in to wake her up. Marlene threatens Riley, calls her out for pretending to be like her, tells her this is more than just a game. Though none of it phases Riley. She's hell-bent on joining the Fireflies. But it's when Marlene drags her to a Firefly corpse that we see a crack in Riley's conviction. What lies before her is the consequence of joining this noble cause. This person with similar dreams and once similar convictions found his efforts all for naught. Now just another nothing in this world. Marlene asks Riley if she wants an end like that. Ellie, oblivious of Marlene's intentions, attacks her. Marlene calms her down, calling Ellie by name. But Ellie never mentioned her name. For the second time in the story, someone knows Ellie's name. For the second time in the story, someone's shown to have an interest in Ellie. Marlene tells Ellie about Anna, Ellie's mother. She reveals Anna was Marlene's friend. She tells her that Anna sacrificed everything for Ellie. She tells her Anna's last wish was to make sure Ellie's safe. So it was Marlene who enrolled Ellie into Fedra's boarding schools, where she knew she'd be safest. And before Ellie can absorb any of this, Marlene hands her her mother's keepsake pocket knife, along with a letter addressed to her from Anna. So the Fireflies officially reject Ellie and Riley and send them back to safety, back to their dorms. Riley's broken, now purposeless. The Fireflies didn't want her. Her one last hope of regaining her agency is gone. Riley's about to turn 16 soon. She's out of time. Fedra will enroll her into their system and she'll never get a chance to escape again. She's trapped. Ellie tells her they can run away, somewhere far from here. But to her shock, Riley's in tears. Riley tells Ellie it doesn't matter. All roads lead to the same end. Death. Whatever path they choose, all they'll find is a different way to die. However, while Riley's lost all meaning, Ellie, on the other hand, has found hope through all this. She found two people who care about her, and she can no longer be defined as an unwanted orphan because she had a mother who put everything into getting her here, and she has proof of it. Ellie's heirlooms symbolized her regaining her identity. Now, having gained the letter and pocket knife, Ellie's learned more about herself today. 2 steps closer to finding herself. The Last of Us American Dreams is about dreams, but not just any kind of dream. Dreams of being your own person, of climbing out of the rat hole, of forging your own path. In this world riddled with despair, that dream is all they have, the only dream worth fighting for. And yet, in the end, it's little Ellie who comes out of it the happiest. And that's especially in contrast to Riley, who began the story so clear-headed and proactive, but switches roles with Ellie at the end. And you can see that change come about in the small moments. When old man Winston takes Ellie on a ride around the mall, Riley uses that opportunity to grab his radio. But Ellie on that ride shares a precious moment with Winston as he recounts all these fun stories from his life. Riley misses out on that. When they encounter the runner, Ellie gets a chance to escape, but comes back because Riley's still in danger. And while Riley tries to brush off the whole ordeal by acting tough, Ellie, in all honesty, hugs her in fear and relief. And you'll find many more moments like this. Perhaps because Ellie started from nothing, with no end goal to obsess over, she was able to lose herself in the people and places around her. Appreciate the small bits of progress she made along the way. Making a friend, going to a mall, learning about her mother, savoring those moments led to the light. And that's what I believe this story is about. The last page of the comic has small panels of Ellie holding close her heirlooms. The Walkman, the pocket knife, and the letter. Each of them a symbol of the progress she's made. The letter. We don't actually get to read in the comic. In the only panel we have, Ellie's hand covers most of it, and all we can make out are a few words. Now, although we can read the full letter in the sequel story Left Behind, where Ellie has it on her when the game begins, I don't think you really need the whole thing. Because even if we never got the complete version, what we have here is enough. A focus on the words living, fight, and proud. The final wishes of Anna. Anna's story is one that the creators of The Last of Us tried very hard to find a home for. Originally planned to be an animated short, then a live action, it was maybe teased to be a comic book of its own at some point, and in another, even its own video game. But for one reason or another, the story never really came to be. That is, until years later, when the creators were finally able to slip some of her story into HBO's live-action adaptation of The Last of Us. And side note, while I do understand and agree that the TV show adaptation and the original game are two very different entities, I do feel like we can connect this particular scene of Anna to the game story as well. Because While the details may differ here and there, the spirit of this scene, the reason why they chose to sneak this particular snippet of her story in there, connects to our Ellie very directly. The scene in question surrounds Ellie's birth and all the trials and tribulations her mother went through, from getting attacked and bit to conceiving Ellie to delivering her safely to Marlene. Now, the actress who plays Anna here is Ashley Johnson, who happens to be the actress who plays Ellie in the video games. As the writers and cast explain, this is meant to be more than just an Easter egg. It's an endorsement. This is the Ellie of the game, Ashley Johnson, passing down her blessings to the Ellie of the show, Bella Ramsey. This girl, not the baby. But what are those blessings exactly? That part is never really explained to us. There seem to be a bunch of questions here. A bunch of questions, all of which point to one answer that we don't actually have right now. Questions like, why are we recounting a story, the details of which have already been explained to us? We already know what happened. Why was it so important for the developers to tell this story, one way or another? Why choose this part in particular to sneak into the show? What is it that all the writers, developers, actors all saw to acknowledge the actress as Ellie? There's something in this simple scene that apparently answers all that. This one core question of, what makes Ellie, Ellie? Ellie's birth is an extremely difficult one. Anna suffers through a series of adversities, each of which seem impossible to overcome. Throughout the whole sequence, we witness Anna fight, lie, and negotiate, all to keep Ellie alive, because Ellie is too weak and helpless to survive on her own. And yet, despite everything, when Ellie comes out, she comes out with a roar. Regardless of her weakness and regardless of the circumstances. And that brings a smile to Anna.
Yeah, you tell them. You fucking tell them, Ellie.
In every iteration of The Last of Us, this is what Ellie's defined by. This is what endears us to her, compels us to root for her. This is what makes Ellie, Ellie.
Oh, you're so tough.
A person who, regardless of the hand dealt to her, continues to fight. An innate spirit inherited from her mother. So Anna, in her letter, tells Ellie to live, to find a purpose worth fighting for, and to make her mother proud. The Last of Us Left Behind is the sequel to American Dreams, which bookends this three-part story. It's a finale of sorts of Act 1 of this tale. Months have passed since that fateful night of chaos and adventure. Ellie and Riley had grown very close to each other after that. But that's until one night where Riley lashed out at Ellie and disappeared. Now alone once again, Ellie's been left wondering why Riley did that and where she could have gone. Left Behind opens on her return.
Riley?
What should be an awkward reunion, Riley tries to play off with her usual charm. But
I haven't seen you, and I don't even know how long. All this time, I thought you were dead.
Ellie's having none of it.
Here.
So Riley reveals to her that she actually went and joined the Fireflies, her American dreams fulfilled. And though Ellie would pretend to not care in a manner eerily similar to the beginning of the comic,
Here. Congrats. Hey.
Riley picks up on some clues suggesting otherwise.
Still no roommate? I had to sleep under Liz for 3 years, and you know how bad that girl smelled. You still have it up.
In all the while they've been separated, Ellie has neither replaced Riley nor moved on from her. So no matter how much Ellie tries to feign indifference, Riley easily bypasses all of that and teases Ellie with another greater night of adventure. And Ellie, obviously still holding feelings for Riley, fails to reject her.
I'm so dumb.
As this is now a video game and no longer a comic book, we ourselves play as Ellie now, taking that same route to that same mall. Pretty cool. And it also opens the door for certain comparisons. For example, while Ellie struggled to keep up with Riley back in American Dreams, this time she matches up to her beat for beat.
You're kind of fast there. I'm impressed.
Although Ellie and Riley had this sort of mentor-student relationship, Ellie was always vying to become an equal to her. You can see how much she's taken after Riley now, including her way of playing tough. But more than that, we also see how strong their bond has become. Ellie used to be so guarded about her Walkman, and she actually got into it with Riley when she stole her Walkman away. But here Riley just nonchalantly asks for it, and Ellie just casually hands it to her, without even being given a reason why. So, small differences from the comic convey the leaps and bounds their friendship has evolved. Riley's come back, and it seems like they've started right from where they left off. Except, Ellie still can't let go of that fight. As a result, she remains apprehensive towards Riley. And while Riley pretends to be oblivious to that fact, she subtly tries to loosen her up, teasing her with surprises.
What are we doing here, Riley?
I have a surprise for you.
What? Is it a dinosaur?
Maybe.
Bringing up their first night here,
Hey, remember the first time I brought you here?
taking her back to Winston's tent, though Winston's passed away now.
I can't believe Winston's gone.
You heard?
Yeah.
They said he just fell off his horse. Heart attack or something.
Man. Well, how many people get to die of natural causes in this world?
None that I know of.
Exactly. So, let's see what he left us.
And offering her first drink. Riley continues to poke at Ellie.
Put it on.
And though she resists,
So stupid.
Riley finally breaks through.
Yeah, badass.
Here.
Now roar. Roar. Ellie, really? Fucking roar. There she is.
Finally, the night of adventure begins.
So, turns out, the whole city has power. They just flipped the circuit breakers. All you gotta do is flip it back. Are you ready?
Totally. Are you kidding? Okay, something creepy. What the heck? It always feels like we're gonna get crushed. Come on, get up here, sit next to me. Move in, move in. Fuck you, you found another pun book?
See those cars down there? Yeah. Red one's yours, I'll be blue. We throw bricks. Whoever breaks all the windows to their car wins.
Are you kidding me? I'm like the brickmaster.
All right. Loser has to answer a question.
What did the cannibal get when he showed up to the party late? A cold shoulder.
All right, fool. You're on.
No, don't tell me it's busted.
All right.
I'll go first.
Ha!
No. I just got on.
Bullseye! Last one. Yes! Brick.
Fucking master!
My car had tougher windows.
Yeah, whatever, loser. All right, question time.
Left Behind is kind of like a girls' night out, but also kind of like a mystery thriller. With the big question being, what does Riley want? Why is she back? Why has she planned this whole party? And more importantly for Ellie, why she went off on her in the first place? Sprinkled in between these moments are Ellie's attempts to get the answer out of Riley, but Riley avoids all of them.
Why did you leave without telling me?
I was in a weird space. Look, I didn't tell anyone. It's just... You gotta see this thing, and we're almost there. Come on.
You didn't answer my question.
But her reasoning should be obvious. Riley, when we first met her, had an ambition and frustration to rise above the system, with only months left before she's drafted into the military. But in meeting Ellie, Riley would find herself wasting her days away, slowly beginning to lose that conviction because Ellie had none of her own. That might have been okay for Ellie, but not for Riley.
Before you left, why did you lash out on me?
I needed some space to figure this stuff out. I told you that, but you just... You wouldn't leave me alone.
After her outburst, Riley decided to leave Ellie and have another go at the Fireflies. And they accepted her. And to an extent, that can be respected. Riley needed to go and do something, achieve her dreams, which she did. And now she's back, trying to rekindle her friendship with Ellie again. Soon Riley asks for forgiveness in her own way, and Ellie accepts in her own way.
I didn't mean it. All that stuff I said before I left. I didn't mean any of it.
Riley, you're such a sap.
Bet you started it.
So everything seems to be good again. However, when Ellie says she has to go back to her dorm and call it a night,
Tomorrow we'll just pick up where we left off.
Riley drops a bombshell.
They've asked me to leave.
Leave what?
Boston. I'm supposed to join a group in another city. They're picking me up tomorrow.
Ellie was wrong. Riley's not here to rekindle their friendship. She's already abandoned it. So, why?
Why did you bring me here?
I wanted to see you.
No, why did you bring me here?
This is guilt. Riley brought her here to clear her conscience.
You feel guilty? You want an out? I'm giving it to you.
But
I'm supposed to be holed up on the other side of town. I get caught as a firefly, I'm dead. Guilt didn't make me cross a city full of soldiers, Ellie.
she denies that too. Well, regardless, it's Ellie now who intentionally brushes the topic away. Because no matter the reason why she's doing this, no matter the reason why she won't tell her, the effort and care Riley's put into this night is clear to see.
You know, I got them back.
Our water guns? Bullshit. You telling me Corporal Dickhead gave them back to you?
Of course not. I had to sneak into his office. Riley, I had them in my hands.
But your ass got caught.
But my ass got caught.
Those water guns you've been dreaming of? I nearly got shot for these.
Okay. First, I'm gonna destroy you. And then we'll talk.
You're about to get drenched.
Let's see what you got, Firefly Girl.
So Ellie and Riley have their long-awaited water gun battle, after which Ellie finally lets Riley go to follow her dreams.
I mean, this is something that you've wanted for, you know, forever, so who am I to stop you?
The one person that can.
But as they end their night with the last dance, Ellie stops.
What's wrong?
When Ellie let Riley go with the best of intentions, Riley almost seemed disappointed.
Who am I to stop you?
The one person that can.
Could it be that Riley risked her life setting up this whole night and snuck back into Fedra territory to get Ellie, all in the hopes that Ellie would stop her going back? Riley chased the Fireflies to avoid the fate Fedra would decide for her, assign her to a position and location against her choosing, to kill people for a grand cause that's arguably not even worth it. But having defied that fate by joining the Fireflies, she still lands in that exact same position.
They've asked me to leave. I'm supposed to join a group in another city.
The Fireflies were no different than Fedra. Riley finally sees that now. And that's subtly reflected in her more closed demeanor now. Riley used to spout Firefly rhetoric so openly, but seems to be much more held back now.
So what? You buy into this whole thing now?
All I know is that I'm not a soldier.
Shaken even by what she's been through.
You've run into more infected?
As part of my initiation, they actually made me kill this. You know, let's talk about something else.
All right. Oh shit, hi!
Man, sorry. I'm a bit jumpy lately.
Life as a Firefly wasn't what she had hoped. Or perhaps her heart was no longer in it. Ellie was meant to be a hindrance to Riley's goals because she couldn't work towards any meaningful future while she was around her. And yet, she was happy. Even though it wasn't grand or noble, it was fun and fulfilling. So she wanted Ellie to fight for her. But Ellie has her own hang-ups. Ellie pretended to have moved on from Riley, even though she clearly still cared. And notice how, for each of the previous answers,
You want an out? I'm giving it to you. Who am I to stop you?
she was ready to let Riley go in whatever way she needed to. Not once was she prepared to fight for her. And this is how
Here, congrats.
she's always been. For the answer to be Riley wants Ellie to fight for her is a lot more complicated for Ellie. Maybe Ellie's wrong about this as well. Maybe Riley doesn't want to be stopped. But being denied on this one would hurt a lot more. Shutting others out hurts less than letting them in. But then, what does a life like that look like? Winston, this character who we rarely saw in American Dreams and one who's already dead by Left Behind, is an example of such a character. This grumpy old soldier stuck doing patrols alone in this mall, his only genuine interactions had been with Ellie and Riley, and there were embers of something greater in their conversations. Winston enjoyed talking to them, and he was even concerned for their safety. He was a good person, but he never really opened up to them. In a note that we find, Winston talks about accidentally catching Ellie crying alone after Riley left her, in what should have been the moment to establish a real connection with Ellie. Winston walked away. In the end, his life was one that just fizzled out. One day getting a heart attack and dying with no one to mourn him. Ellie and Riley only have a lukewarm reaction to his death.
Oh God.
Ellie casts her pride away and decides to fight for her loved ones for the first time. And turns out, she was finally right. It was worth it to fight. And so, Ellie pushes it further. In the ultimate act of love and vulnerability, Ellie kisses Riley. And turns out, she was right again. Riley loves her too. However, in typical Last of Us fashion, everything goes wrong.
They're behind us too! This way!
Similar to the run-in with the infected in American Dreams, Ellie and Riley help each other in taking out the runners. Unfortunately though, while last time they got away with just a scare, this time it's real.
No.
While Ellie violently reacts to their end, Riley, this character who's been so obsessed with finding meaning before dying, is oddly calm.
The way I see it, we got two options. Option one, you take the easy way out. I'm not a fan of option one. Two, we fight.
Riley's proposition sounds absurd.
Fight for what? We're gonna turn into one of those things.
It's over. There's nothing to fight for. But then again, isn't that what we've been doing till now?
Ellie, help me lift this.
Throughout the night, we've witnessed paths being blocked, rides breaking down,
No. I just got on.
arcade games out of order,
No, don't tell me it's busted.
photo booths malfunctioning.
Maybe if you hide it up here.
This is a world where nothing lasts for long and where everything quickly falls apart. And yet, Ellie and Riley kept on searching for their next adventure regardless.
You know what? How about we find another way?
Yeah. Sounds good.
You want to keep exploring?
Hell yeah.
Oh, I got something else.
Angel Knives throws her fists in the air. You win.
Fuck yeah, I win.
Now their lives are ending, but what Riley's saying is they should still enjoy the time they have left. and in turn continue defying the world in the small way they have been.
But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days. We don't give that up.
At the end of this quest for finding meaning, becoming someone who matters, these two characters have found what they were looking for in each other. Both remain as these orphans shrugged off by the rest of the world. But that doesn't matter to them now. They were able to create their own little funhouse and will stay there together till they go crazy and lose their minds. A perfect end to their story. If only Ellie hadn't lived through it.